with Joey?
In terms of?
His health status, why wasn't he wearing a mask?
Joey Bosa is in the COVID protocols as a close contact trace of Jerry Tillery, and so he's going to be out here for a few days, and he's kind of day-to-day that way. Joey is. He's tested negative, but he's going to be out here for a few days.
So Jerry has tested positive?
Jerry Tillery's tested positive, yes.
Okay. Have you talked about any contact, and are they feeling anything?
Yeah, they're both feeling well. Both of them are, and been in contact with both those guys. And Christian Covington is another player who will be in the COVID protocol as well. And then Drew is still in there and trending positive.
Why wasn't Joey wearing a mask at press conference?
I'm not positive about that, Shelley. I know that Joey has been extremely compliant here at the facility and on the practice field, and I know that we've been extremely diligent within our protocols, and the NFL's been here several times, including last week, to spot check us, and we have video cameras throughout the facility that specifically are looking for those types of people to be compliant. So I think that we've done a really good job here with the Chargers of putting the emphasis on this issue, and as I think we've seen throughout the country is, there's been some spiking of this issue, and now we're just going to try and keep it moving and keep our environment here at the facility safe, and just when our guys aren't at the facility, making sure that they're as safe as they can be.
Talk of a fine, I'm sorry. They talk of a fine?
Not that I'm aware of. No.
Just to clarify, Brandon, so you're not sure what day Joey's going to come back to the team?
Do not. It's day to day, but he is tested negative.
It would have to be Saturday if he's a close contact, right? 5 days. So Saturday would be the earliest.
It would be, yes.
And Christian Covington, he tested positive?
There was a positive, then a negative, then a positive, and so he's kind of in the middle of that sequencing, so he won't be out there at practice today.
Okay. And just in terms of the defensive line, obviously that's where this is impacted. Just how do you move forward? Just go to the practice squad and.
Yeah, we just got to move forward with the guys that we have, that we've been training. Fortunately for us, those guys have played in the games for us, and so we have confidence in them because they've been out there. We kind of know who they are, know their strengths and weaknesses, and it's a good group of guys, and we'll put a good plan together for them that makes sure, that gives them the best chance to be successful and us. And the good news is they've been out there. You're not just witnessing something for the first time, and so those guys will have to rise to the occasion, and that's the NFL.
Is that the extent of the players on the list?
Yeah, those 4 guys right now.
So Linval is, at this point, not a factor in that.
He is not a factor in that.
Brent, are you satisfied with the way this went with the team? I mean, other teams have had this position group situation. I mean, did you guys do everything you could do? I guess I'm asking in terms of trying to prevent this from happening.
Oh yeah, I mean, we have outdoor team meetings. We don't ever meet inside as a big group. So our lifting groups are organized, where our unvaccinated guys are completely separate from everybody else, and so the numbers are just a really good distribution so that we're safe and sound in the meeting rooms. Whether it's a team meeting, position rooms are organized accordingly, and we make sure that the NFL is fully aware of our setup. And like I say, they have access to all of the video within our organization, and they also have spot checkers, negotiated with the union. So, I mean, I'm very comfortable with how we've addressed things, and this issue was more or less, I think, something coming from the game, when they're in the locker room, which, I mean, that's just our locker room. So, but everything else, I mean, our guys are doing an excellent job, and I think it's been a strength of our team how we've handled it from the springtime to now. And now we've got to make sure that we maintain even, higher awareness for this, because around the country it's, starting to spike a little bit.
Brandon, with what happened on Sunday with the miscommunication and the helmets and everything, are you guys going to be maybe making that an emphasis this week, or do you feel like it was just one of those hiccup games where the miscommunication happened with you and Derwin?
It wasn't something that impacted the game. The calls were in there fine. It's just our headsets went out. So there was it was truly a technical error that we addressed with the NFL. And so, Derwin managed it really well because he was kind of getting the play from me from the sideline. So we were able to do that. It was just frustrating. We had to, swap out the helmet device, and there was a stretch where it was just stressful more than anything because you're in a loud environment. But Derwin handled it very, very well, him and Kaiser. And I felt like the way we do things in practice really helped us get through that because we treat every walkthrough, every game like it's live. So I commend both those two guys for kind of keeping their composure because it was a little edgy there for a couple series in there.
And then Michael Davis this week, will he be practicing? Any news on him?
Yeah, Vato's going to be back at practice this week, and he was at the walkthrough today, and I think that he's progressing well. And so we're going to work him into practice and then see where it goes. But, hopeful, optimistic for sure.
Mike Tomlin has obviously been doing this for a long time at a very high level. You're a historian of all of these coaches. Just specifically, what makes him such a great leader and a guy that's been so successful in this league as a head coach?
Well, number one, there's not another guy that I have more respect for in the league. And his consistency and performance, he's been an NFL coach for 14 years, and he's never had a losing season. He's made 2 Super Bowls, won one of them. There's been 9 playoff appearances, 7 division titles in one of the premier divisions in football. When you take a look at them in Baltimore, you got 2 of the premier franchises in the NFL, and he's going nose to nose with them twice or 3 times a year. He was the youngest head coach at the time to win a Super Bowl. And I think when I went into my interviews last year, because I've watched this guy for a long time, and what stands out to me is his humility. He's an outstanding communicator. I was with Mike Munchak in Denver, who was with Mike for several years, and Mike's a Hall of Fame player and coach, and just the level of respect that he had for Mike, and it's just this guy's as good as it gets in all of sports, and it's that humility, that communication, that competitiveness. And when I went into my interviews last year, a lot of people were asking me like, who do you pattern your game after? And Mike Tomlin was at the top of my list because he was an offensive player. He played wide out at William & Mary. He'd only been a coordinator for 1 year before he became a head coach. And just, I felt like I saw a lot of myself in him. And I was hoping to pattern a lot of my game after him. And I just, watching him with a young quarterback, he's got one of the top quarterbacks in the game as a young head coach. And, that was certainly something that I was hoping to do. And I just think that this guy, his consistency and his leadership skills and his ability to adapt over time. I thought one thing that, just has always stood out to me is he was a defensive coordinator that came up under a certain system. And when he became the head coach, he was with a legendary Hall of Fame coach, Dick LeBeau. And they kept that system in place because it was, at that time, one of the top defensive systems in all of football. And I thought that said so much about his humility is that he would learn that defense. And he was a secondary guy, came up against, with Tony Dungy and Monty Kiffin. It's a very different style of play than Dick LeBeau. And for him to have that type of humility and that type of awareness as a coach to know that you're going to fit your team to the way it is and not someplace else. And so I think there's so many lessons to learn from him. And, I can't speak highly enough of him because he's one of the great competitors in the game.
And what about Nas and Justin Jackson?
Nas will be in practice this week, similar to Vato, trending positive. But he's going to practice this week, and we're going to see how it goes. And then Justin Jackson's going to be in practice. He's probably a week away, but don't want to rule him out just yet because he's trending positive.
Regarding the headsets, is that something that the league runs, or is it the stadium? Is it the home team? Who's overseeing that whole topic?
Yeah, I'm learning a lot about that topic. It's a little bit of all three, but our issue was not related to our team. The technology by the league and all that stuff. So we had to work with them to make sure that that issue doesn't happen again, or doing the best you can to avoid it. But I felt like we did a good job keeping our heads on straight during the game. And like I said, Derwin and Kaiser deserve so much credit because they kind of managed our way through it.
You guys get another top 10 running back on Sunday, and Najee Harris, just as a rookie, and what he's accomplished.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of a physical runner. Just how would you assess him?
They really hit on this back. He's a really complete back. He's smooth. He can see. He can run with power. He can catch the football out of the backfield. He's got a physical presence, so he's willing in pass protection. And so, he's definitely a strength of their football team. And he's one of these, young runners that's, making a name for himself in the league. And, I definitely think that they've done an outstanding job, bringing him along. And, he certainly has a great pedigree coming from Bama. But, he's an outstanding young player.
Brandon, you had a rare game where you both were on 4th down, and he's looking back at that Vikings game. Were you thinking maybe there's some spots you could have done for it, or were you okay with the decisions you had in that game?
Yeah, I was okay with the decisions. The 4th and 4 early in the game, in my mind, it was right on the fringe, and I just really felt like, defensively giving ourselves a really good chance to get off the ground and get this thing started. I really liked our plan going into the game, and I felt like on that first series we got that. We had a really good first series defensively, and I just felt like playing field position there would be the smart call, and not given a really prolific offense, that type of short field when I felt like our defense was really playing well, and then the one at the end of the game certainly can go either way. I'm fully aware of the modeling and in terms of that's your best chance to score. Right there, you're close, score there, and I'm aware of that. And it was one of those things in the flow of the game where I just felt like we needed to make that a one-score game. And I really had confidence in the way we were playing on defense, and I felt like with how much time was left in the football game and where our timeouts were, where the 2-minute was, I felt like we would be able to create that possession where we could score, go for 2 to win the game. That was my thought process, in terms of painting that picture. And, it was right there for us. We had a 2nd and 17, a 3rd and 6, a 3rd and 20, and it was there for us, to accomplish, and it didn't go down. And, it's one of those decisions I take full responsibility for, and I understand, why I would be criticized for that. But, I wouldn't change it.
Brandon, are you coaching this week for 2 different quarterbacks? Like, hey, here's Ben Roethlisberger, but also Mason Rudolph, or what's your guys' game plan? Well, I can't ask you for the game plan.
No,
like,
but
what's
yeah,
your guys'
yeah, plan. Your preparation plan.
Yeah, preparation, there you go.
Yeah, the preparation plan. That's a good question. You got to prepare for both styles. I feel like you got a strong sense of how they play with Mason because you have last week to go over, and then last year when he was in the game. So you have film of him playing in games. And then you can certainly watch him in the preseason just to get a feel for, hey, is this offense really changing for him? So they're similar style players. Mason's a big statured guy, has a very good arm, has enough mobility like Ben. So I think that we have a good plan for both guys, and we're going to have to prepare that way. And like I said, fortunately for us that we've seen him in games, so we have a good idea of how he plays and his style of play, and his mannerisms and some of those game day differences between him and Ben, maybe how he operates from a communication standpoint at the line of scrimmage and the shotgun, all those little things.
Is it an additional layer of stress when you have to do that, or are these 2 guys close enough where it's not like one guy's going to come in and they're going to completely change the way they?
Well, I think we are always preparing for both guys. Like, you play Philly and, Gardner Minshew is their backup quarterback. And you got to have your guys aware of the style of the backup quarterback because it can happen. In the first game, you have Fitzpatrick and Taylor Heineke. Those 2 guys are completely different players. And so every game you go into the plan and saying, okay, if this happens, then this person's in here and this is how the game's going to go. So it's part of your daily, your weekly routine, looking at both players. This one just happens to be a little bit different, like you're saying, because either one of them could play. Where most of the time when you're preparing for a backup, it's only in an emergency. Where this one, both guys could potentially play based on who's healthy and who's not.
With Minka Fitzpatrick being on the COVID list and his status being up in the air, a lot of what they do defensively sort of flows through him. How do you see things changing if he's not on the field? He's
a fantastic player. Minka's as good as it gets at safety. I have a ton of respect for his game. And when he was coming out, that was one of my first years in the league. I want to say 17 maybe. And just such a fan of his game. Derek Ansley, our secondary coach, coached him at Bama, and he's one of the guys that has that rare versatility, corner safety, star money, dynamic playmaker in the deep part of the field, open field tackler, man-to-man. And I thought it was a great trade by the Steelers going to get him and adding a difference maker like that. I thought that was a really, really smart trade for them. And so, anytime you lose a key guy like that, it's impactful for sure. But the thing about Mike Tomlin is he's a secondary coach, and the next guy is going to go and play well, and the expectations are going to be high. So we expect them to operate similarly. But if Minka does play, it does add a different dimension of your awareness because he's a true ball hawk back there. He's a difference maker.
At Justin's under pressure numbers, like last year he was historically good in that area, and it's a volatile status, not particularly sticky. This year he's still above average, but there's been a decline in his passer rating under pressure. Is that just natural regression? Or are you seeing something in his game where maybe he's not being as productive under pressure? Do you feel like the numbers are indicative of what you're seeing on film, sort of that sort of thing?
Man, Daniel, I think it's great analysis. It's interesting analysis to look back at for sure. I think this guy's got real poise under pressure. I know that we're not going to win 5 games without his play under pressure, and I think that it's because he can play like that when the circumstances are tight that I don't think there will ever be any real regression with him. It may not be as historic, but I think he's going to be one of these guys that thrives on third down. Just because of the type of player that he is. And then I'm hoping that the way we play on third down, and I think that's a strength of ours. I think we're like 7th in the NFL or 6th in the NFL on third downs this year, is going to help him too with our protection plan and the type of route concepts that we're activating, matchups, all that. Hopefully it'll allow him to stay a clutch third down player. But as we've talked about before, we want to be able to avoid those really tough gotta-have-it situations as much as we can too. But I think what we have going for us is we have a guy that when it's known pass, and you guys have heard me talk about it, when it's known pass in the NFL, let's say you're behind, let's say you're on the road, you're never going to be a factor as a team if your quarterback can't play well when they know it's pass or you're behind. And we have a quarterback where we can say we can go play like that. And, I'm super proud of his performance, so far this season, and I think that he's going to continue to improve. He's going to get, the more he sees, the more he's going to be able to key diagnose and play even faster, and we're going to continue to play well around him. But I think that, he's been a strength of ours under pressure, and what we've got to make sure that we do is make sure that, we can keep him as clean as possible because we've seen how we execute when that happens.
Brandon, midway through the season, where would you assess where the defense is at? I mean, your passing numbers, and I think total defense, you're around the middle, but the third down conversion numbers and running numbers are pretty low.
Yes, sir. I'm really excited about where we're going. I'm really excited about where we're going. The last 3 games in the run game, we've played 3 really good running teams and been under 4 yards a carry against 3 really good running attacks. And I feel like the way we're playing, like in some of those tough situations, like the 3rd and 1s, the goal line plays, like we're playing tough and rugged and physical the way I expect to play, the way we expect to play around here. And I think our third down and more than 5 defense has been excellent. Last week we were having a really big day, and then those penalties kind of sidetracked us a little bit, and then they hit a couple shots there at the end. The big shot, obviously the 3rd and 6 to Jefferson, which is a tremendous throw and catch by them. But I like the way we're playing on 3rd and 5+. I love the way we're playing. I think where we're ranked is reflective of early in the season the way we're playing against the run. And I think what we did for the first time last week really was get those tackles for a loss, get those negative plays. We forced a bunch of holding penalties, which I think is a sign of us playing aggressively, playing with the right fundamentals, playing with confidence. And so I'm optimistic about how we're playing. I think the product that we're putting on the field is more what I'm used to seeing, and there's still a lot of work to do. I know that we're in the middle right now. The other thing I'll tell you is we've played, I think 7 out of 9 offenses in the top 10, and we played a real schedule defensively. And I think that we're figuring it out, and I think that that's real too. And I'm proud of our guys because I think we're improving. And I think as a coach, what you see on a daily basis, and the way it should look like, and it's getting closer to being that way. And I think our guys just have to keep diving into each other, and we've figured out the right combinations. And then what we've got to continue to do is survive the attrition of the NFL and thrive when guys go down. And I thought last week was a good example of that, and the week before when we had a bunch of DBs down and, you got a bunch of guys out. Are you still playing tough? And I felt like we've been doing that. So there's still, a lot of room for us, and that's what I'm excited about because I think that at the end of the year, hopefully we can be playing our best.
Brandon, you brought up the 2 penalties on 3rd and long in that game. There's obviously the one on Chris, the 3rd and 10. And then the 3rd and 15, Tavon got called for penalty, but the pass was completed.
Correct.
But I'm saying, do you view that as it's a penalty because just his technique was off? Is that sort of...
Well, he got called for a foul on that.
Yeah. But
so I was saying, regardless if it was incomplete or not, I'm just saying if it had been incomplete,
okay,
it's a first down.
Right.
And so I'm saying regardless of if it was incomplete, they would have still made the first down. And so I'm just saying from my standpoint, those are 2 technique errors on 3rd and 10, 3rd and 15, and it was a huge deal in the game. That 3rd and 10 in the game, if you look at the context of the game, it was 17-13, good guys, and then we foul, and then things went sideways from there.
Nice Casey Coleman.
That brings me back to Cleveland.
Just, Brandon, at midseason, how's it been, you're running the defense, but you and Ronaldo are both doing it and calling the plays and kind of in terms of the week and the game plan and everything and being the head coach, how has everything fit together?
It's been a joy working with R Hill. I feel like we're getting better as we go, and we're figuring out one another and getting that ideal sweet spot during the week so we can be who we need to be for our staff. And in terms of timing and preparation, and I think Ronaldo's doing such a good job leading our staff when I'm doing other things like this or, working with the offense or special teams. And I think that we're very well organized now. I feel like halfway through we've really settled into our rhythm and routine. And then on game day, I think it's been excellent in terms of our adjustments that we've been able to make. And I felt really at peace where, okay, kicking game plays happening, offensive plays happening. All right, well then I may think of something, hey, click over back to our Hill. Hey, do we have this covered? Hey, let's preview this for the next series. And we've been able to, really make those, as the game goes, adjustments and previews for our players. And I think we're improving every time. And without Ronaldo, there's no way I would be the head coach that I am today because he's just been a great leader for us. And if you guys meet with him every week, he's so steady. And he's got so much wisdom, and he's so great with the guys, whether it's our coaches or our players. And I love teaming up with him.